We'll continue on our journey into learning all things about choosing a property in the country, particularly some of the factors that cannot be modified, which we need to be aware of. And for that end, we are bringing in our specialist gardener here, Rod Bailey, and he's going to be helping us to navigate yet this element, this aspect of moving to the country. Rod, good morning to you. It's great to have you with us on the show today.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
So I'm here with my friend Elliot. Have you met Elliot before? Elliot Kazari?
I don't think I have. Good morning, Elliot.
No, good morning.
So we'll make sure that we'll introduce you in person in the first opportunity. But Rod, tell us a little bit about our journey into discovering life in the country. You're talking about some aspects of the property that we cannot change. For example, the direction of the sun, where the house compared to where the house is located, the areas where you can build the house. So if there's elements such as roads that pass through. So there's a number of things, a number of factors that are fixed and there's nothing we can do about. Are there any other factors that we should look into that should influence our decision to either purchase the property or not?
Yeah, remember, Joseph, we talked about how it's most important to consider these things that you can't change first because, if the kitchen's pretty ordinary or there's no shed there on the property, you can always change that, but some things you can't. And so these are the things that are most important to consider to begin with. And I don't know whether you remember last time I shared a story about some friends of ours that were looking to buy a property and their conveyancer did a deep dive and found out that, down the track, because of a native title claim, they weren't going to be able to have access to their place. So they chose not to buy that. But I thought we'd continue today about talking about access to the property because some people really get trapped here. Many people are looking for remote, secluded properties. And I completely understand why that is. But we've got to understand that if you're not wise, this might be a very expensive and inconvenient feature to have, depending on how good or bad the access is to the property. So one thing, when you're driving to look at a property, take notice of the access. Take notice of the road conditions that lead to the property. Is the road tar? Is it gravel? Is it well maintained? Who maintains it? Does the council maintain it? Sometimes when you're really remote, local landholders need to maintain their own roads. So are your neighbours doing that, or is in the road in a terrible state of disrepair? Because there's time that, if the road is in a bad condition, you're driving slower, so it takes you a lot anywhere. But the other aspect is the wear and tear on a vehicle. If you're moving to the country and got a brand new vehicle and the road is full of potholes and washouts and corrugations and you got to do creek crossings without, bridges and stuff like that, how long is your new vehicle going to stay new? How quickly is it going to get trashed? And are you going to actually have to sell that vehicle and buy a four-wheel drive because when it starts raining, you're slip sliding all over the place and you're going to get into trouble there. Really important questions to ask, to take note of. Are there creek crossings? Is the road subject to flooding? Is that important? Are you happy to stay at home, for a few days or a few weeks, until the water goes down, or does your work or whatever is important to you and necessitate you getting out? Are the bridges and culverts well formed? So take a notice as you're driving out to the property.
Yes, absolutely. Look, and it's good to be prepared. I actually have some friends, Rod, that live in a property out in the bush, also very remote area. And when it rains heavily, they said that they were stuck in their property for over 2 weeks until they could actually, and they had like full on 4x4 Range Rovers, Land Rovers, and so on, and they still the force of the waters was just so intense that they couldn't do anything. They were stranded.
No, that's life, flooding rains. We live in a country of flooding rains, and depending on the locality, like where we are, we've the longest we've been flooded in is like a day at the most. But we've got friends that are within 2 kilometres that get flooded in for a week at a time. So
Wow.
it really depends on the locality
Mm-hmm.
and the location of the property.
Yes.
So take a notice as you go into the property. What's the roads like? But then on the property itself, access can be another problem. So the driveway. So the roads on the property. What's its state now? Is the driveway formed up? Is it well made? Is there drainage? Is it formed up and will the water run off it? Or will the water run down your road and create canyons sort of thing? Is it bad? Is it rutted? If it is, it'll probably stay like that because road building and maintenance is expensive. So it's good to understand what the road is made out of, what material it's made out of. So some soils you can just drive on and it's perfectly fine as a roadway. Other
I'm sorry, you're losing it there, Rod. I think we're having a bit of a hiccup with the connection.
Oh, that's no good.
Oh, okay. Now we have you back. So tell me, road maintenance, what does it involve? Like, can you DIY yourself, just get a hoe and just fix it yourself, or is normally you actually have to hire people to do it a much bigger job?
Well, it depends on the problem. If it's just a pothole in a well-formed road, you can easily fix that with a bit of gravel, wheelbarrow load or a bit of dirt on the back of your ute, and you can fill it in. But if it's got serious structural issues, you can either buy your own equipment, like we've got a grader attachment that goes on the back of our tractor that we can run over our road. But sometimes it gets to the point where you've got to get a contractor. Our road base here is not ideal at all. Our high rainfall causes it to wash easily. Since the last drought broke in beginning of 2020 after those terrible 2019 fires, we've spent many tens of thousands maintaining. Now,
wow.
We've got 4 kilometres of internal roads, right? But because our soil is not ideal, it easily washes, it's not a really good consistency, it's quite expensive for us to do. Now, that is, all of our roads are formed, okay? There's really good drainage. We've got pipes under the roads and stuff like that. Building our roads was a serious project. Excavator, dump truck to win and to transport the road base, and then we had a grader and a roller. Many weeks of work to build our 4 kilometres of roads. And just a shout out, thanks to the Rosendale family if they're listening, for their invaluable assistance on that project. But the longer the road you have internally, the more expensive or the more time you're going to need to spend to maintain it, unless you've got one of those properties that's just got fantastic road base and you can use it for years without a lot of maintenance. But just on the length of the driveway, sadly, a lot of country properties, the house is built right close to the road.
Yeah,
now, I don't know about you, whether you want to shift to the country and live right on the road still. But the reason being, in times past when people decided where to build their houses, they recognised that it might be nice over those 2 valleys and up on that hill, but we're going to have to maintain a road. And back in those days, we just didn't have the equipment that we've got today. But just know that if your driveway's long like ours is, it's going to be more expensive to maintain, to build, and then to maintain as well.
Yeah, makes sense. A bit of a trade-off. I remember once going to check a rural property with my wife when we were on the hunt for a place to live, and we found this property somewhere, and the property was really great. It was beautiful. But when I was there, I stopped and I said to the real estate agent, "Hey, can you hear this?" And she says, "Hear what?" I mean, there's sounds of cars everywhere. I cannot see the cars, but like it's basically I'm living like next to a highway or something here. I cannot see the birds. And then the lady said, "Oh, I haven't noticed that." And she was kind of trying to sell it to me. Said, "Oh, maybe we'll just forget about it if you buy this property." But look, what's the point if you're going to the country? You cannot even listen to the sound of birds chirping. It's just like trucks and cars all around. It's like, I think there's some houses in the city that are quieter than that.
That's a sad reflection. But I completely understand your objection there. But I see people shift from the city to the country, and sadly they bring the city with them. Okay, and so they might choose a property where you can't hear the noise of the road, but they've brought Netflix with them, or those trappings of society that we so easily get sucked into. They bring that with them. And man,
that's good.
I just feel so sad for those folk.
I hear you.
Life here can be so different if we make the conscious choice to decide, this is a new way of life. We're not just changing our location; we're actually changing our way of life, our lifestyle.
That's a really important, really important point. And sometimes you can get out of the city, but the city does not get out of your heart, and you're still living the same lifestyle, but with all the extra work that comes instead of just embracing the lifestyle of a simpler, more nature connected life.
That's true, but we got to give each other grace and ourselves grace, and understand that it's a process of transition. But it's really helpful to sit down and take a long, hard look at yourself, as we've talked about before, and decide, are there ways of thinking that I need to change? It's not just about roads and about soil and weather and growing a garden and stuff. What do we really want to achieve in this move? And how can we prepare ourselves now for that? We've talked about if you live in an apartment and all you've got is a balcony, but you really want to have a half an acre garden. Well, start with some pots on your balcony. Start now. Start living the lifestyle that you dream of now. To go as far as you can in your current context. That way, you're much better prepared for your great escape.
And Rod, we have about still 2 minutes in this current segment, and I'm wondering, is there any new factor that we can start this week, and then we can continue to elaborate next time you talk to us, or would you like to give us perhaps a summary of where we've been so far?
No, I'll just mention something off air last time, Joseph. You suggested that I put together some written material for folk that we might be able to share. And so I've written something that I've titled 10 Expensive Mistakes People Make When Buying Rural Property and How to Avoid Them.
That's amazing.
Just at the moment, so we're just... my daughter Katie is just finalising the PDF for that. She's making my words much more attractive by adding photographs and et cetera, et cetera. So by the next time we're together, I'll have a website ready that you can give to the listeners, and they'll just be able to go there and download their PDF.
Oh, that is incredible. That's so good. I think that everybody will appreciate that so much.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope it'll be a blessing to people. Some of these things we've talked about previously on the podcast, and I'll certainly bring more of them up, in sharing times together. But hopefully that'll be a real blessing to people, because I see my role as a buyer's agent and just as a friend helping people out. The first thing, the lowest bar for me to achieve is to help people avoid making expensive mistakes.
Yes.
The worst thing is to people to go to the time and the effort, and put their dreams into action, to seek a new home in the country for their family, and then in their ignorance make a bad mistake, which turns it all sour. And the worst case scenario is they get so discouraged, or they get into such a financial pickle because of unforeseen expenses or whatever, that they get to the point where they need to give up on their dream, sell the property, and return back to this life in the city. So just wanting to do whatever we can to help people not get into that situation.
Absolutely. And look, this is then, I'm going to suggest here, Rod, if you have been listening to us, Radio Friend, and you're interested, you've been praying about it, you've been considering to have a move to the country, and you don't really know where to start or how to navigate this complex project that it is to find a place. And if you'd like to get hold of Rod, he can help you as a buyer's agent to find the right property for you. You can text us here to 0491 064 669, #country, and we will connect you with Rod, so you can chat with him, say to him what your plans are like, and then he can find a way to assist you in that process. Rod Bailey, thank you so much for your time today.